We're rolling the dice this week on a brand new Roll for Crit podcast, the official podcast for the online board game store, rollforcrit.com. Watch, shop, play. I'm Jonathan Estes.
And I'm Will Keeler, and before we get into sort of more of a small story, earlier we talked about the D&D beta opening up, and it actually did open up, and it actually opened up for everyone.
That's
so
right.
You can just sign up. It doesn't matter if you sign up for the beta before, you can just go there now.
This is D&D Beyond, to be clear. This is their new digital companion, if you haven't heard about it.
Right, they're going to be opening it in waves. Right now, all there is pretty much like almost an encyclopedia, like you can look up some monsters, items, so on and so forth. However, they'll be opening things so you can make character creations and then an item, or not an item, a modification page, so if you want to add your own stuff. So we'll probably report more on it when it's really all set, but we just want to let you know that it's open and you should check it out.
Yeah, I mean, I paged through it. It definitely seems, I definitely want to see more, because right now it's a little basic. It's got like the stuff you really need, but I want to see what they can do when you can actually go in and make your own stuff and dig around.
Right now I felt just from looking at it, what's available now, and like I said, it's only in waves, so I can't really judge it from this, but it felt like it was a bit more helpful on your end as the GM of our group.
Yeah, it could be. I mean, I definitely can see that a little bit. It's gonna have some nice stuff for spells and items as well. But yeah, as we said, check it out. We'll talk about that more later. Hey, South by Southwest happened like a week or two ago.
Yeah.
And they actually had a tabletop award. Arkham Horror, the card game, won their. I think they only have one. They didn't have like a. They had most of it was video game related.
Win?
No, it was Arkham Horror, the card game, went for South by Southwest. So that's cool.
It's because that was the only one they're actually able to play. They couldn't get their hands on site.
That could be part of it, but it means that you're in good company, I guess, with that. Since your number one pick.
I'm glad, because part of me, I'm always like, this is probably just me.
Yeah, see, you're justified. You're not crazy. That's not all that happened at South by Southwest. This was a weird thing that I thought would be very interesting to talk about. They had a panel at South by Southwest about the CIA and how they actually use board games to train CIA agents. And they went through a bunch of the different types of games that they use, and it's this guy David Klopper who actually designs most of them.
That actually sounds like a DC villain name.
David Klopper. I'm pretty sure that's also a word for a My Little Pony porn thing, but we're not going to get into
we know what his villain power is now.
We won't get into that. I'm sure that's not anything to do with him. But a couple of the examples that they had, there was a game called Collection Deck, which was like a Magic the Gathering. Like a lot of them were kind of based on existing games.
So it wasn't actual games, they made their own.
No, right. They actually designed from the ground up specific CIA games. So in this game, for instance, as they said, a player could lay out a card to collect intelligence via satellite photos, but an opponent could block them by playing a ground station failure card. Or there was another one, a game called Kingpin, The Hunt for El Chapo, which would
El Chapo.
Quote, train analysts who might work with law enforcement and other partners around the world to find a well-armed, well-defended, well-protected bad guy. And they talked about how, this is really helpful. It helps people get in the frame of mind. There are ones about what's going on in Afghanistan, all kinds of different scenarios. But I mean, we've talked about using board games in classrooms and other educational settings, but it is really interesting to consider it, CIA setting.
It is, but I mean, I don't think it's too, it's not a far off, because I think, they made their own, but you don't even need to do that. For example, I'd take something like, especially anything that has a hidden trader mechanic, in particular I would say like Battlestar, like something that's not a short one, that's so long you almost have to learn to be ready that an ally may turn on you or something.
Do they want to tell everybody don't trust your teammates?
But they even start looking for signs, like look for tells and stuff.
That's interesting. Too. I thought you were going to go with like Twilight Struggle or something like that.
Well, I haven't fully played Twilight Struggle.
The one I was thinking of was Pandemic. Is like maybe not for the CIA, but in general, it's like a really interesting, like real world. You could kind of use that as
how maybe things spread or epidemics and stuff. Yeah, and then we could also go and look. I just had a great one in my head, and I just totally forgot it.
Come on, you can do it. No, we're gonna let you. We're gonna let it come.
It came and went.
Oh, well, was it political in nature?
I don't think it was.
Put in your guesses right now.
But, I mean, you can think of plenty of mechanics that make perfect sense. I'd probably just maybe change the wording and the style so it fits more of a their real world aspects.
Yeah.
Like you said, like the satellite or something like that.
They're
probably not coming against a dragon. That's just me.
I don't know. You never know what they're going to do. They also said that they wanted to move into more virtual reality stuff, but I wonder, because I would think a board game, because you can design it so much more easily and quickly than actually having to build from the ground up video games. But I know they use video games. I know they've actually used stuff like Call of Duty, I think, to train soldiers at least. So there's a lot of weird stuff going on.
I couldn't help when you said they're trying to go into VR. All I pictured was, all right, put this on. This is you hacking. It's just the Jurassic Park scene of just like the
Yeah, it's just a scroll of Matrix text that doesn't mean anything. Just type faster. But if anybody's in the CIA who's watching,
we know they're watching.
Yeah, that's true. I think there was an Ars Technica article where they actually got to play some of these games. It is pretty interesting to hear about that kind of thing.
New game they should make. Mm-hmm. It's Don't Wake Daddy, but it's Don't Let the Public Know the Truth.
Oh man, the Edgy controversy episode of Roll for Crit. We're going to be taken off the air. The government's going to shut us down. Let's move on to something much less inflammatory. Not that
Zombies.
Zombies and zombie dice. So Steve Jackson Games actually laid out some of their plans for their July releases of this year. Ooh. Most of it was Munchkin related.
Really?
I'm not going to talk about it. But one thing I kind of caught my eye was this Zombie Dice Horde Edition, which is actually just the original Zombie Dice, but it also comes with expansions 2 and 3, as well as a brand new cloth bag and a score pad. And what I thought was cool about it, or maybe not cool, but interesting also, was it's a box. So it looks like they're abandoning the tube. And they have a few dice games that come in tubes.
That's interesting also, because, I mean, thinking about it, because you said combine everything, that includes a school bus die. Mm-hmm. That's a big die.
It is, so it's got to be at least like that tall. Yeah. It's got to be a couple inches high.
I mean, we did a video on this if you want to know what the game's like. Yeah. I mean, pretty good.
Yeah, we covered both the expansions as well, and we like them.
I will say, because I know you mentioned they have other dice games, and one of them actually just a reskin to make it a little bit more kid-friendlier, I believe was the wording. But it's for Dino Hunt, another game they had. And
Your favorite game.
Well, because the original version they used to make was great, but now they only make these dice, and I'm like, you have zombie dice. Just make the.
Well, do you think that they're gonna convert all their dice games to boxes now? And do you think do people not like the tubes?
I think zombie dice might, because it's more popular and has expansions, so that way it fits better on a shelf. But I feel because for the Dino Hunt one is made for kids, the tube is almost more like, yay, let's roll. And
yeah, so it looks more like appealing to casual
people. I've played Chupacabra once, so
right.
And I know there's some others, but those are the ones that off the top of my head that
those are the big ones. Yeah, I don't know. It'll be interesting because I know, usually gamers hate weird-sized boxes.
Well, I mean, I can't lie. I mean, if you on my shelf here, I actually have these cloth that take up the shelf. They're just like a bin, and one of them is just odd-shaped stuff.
Right. Yeah, odds and ends, miscellaneous, won't fit on a shelf. But that will be out in July, so if you're a zombie dice person, that's been kind of hard to find, or at least they stopped doing the deluxe edition, and then for a while, the regular zombie dice, so I guess they've been gearing up towards this new version of it, which is kind of nice. And this was a cool announcement. I kind of talked to you about this a little bit. This is from about a week ago or so. There was so much stuff last week, some of it actually carried over into this week. Button Shy Games and Nevermore Games are teaming up, and they announced this new project, which is called the Spiel Press Game Series. And it's a series of roll and write games, which are books/games. That if you don't know what it is, it's essentially a storytelling book that you're reading, but you're also rolling dice and maybe cutting things out, sort of like an RPG/choose-your-own-adventure.
Legacy read.
Yeah, it is kind of a legacy read, because some of them you can't really play more than once. But it has perforated pages. The two that they announced to start off are Blood Royals, which is like a political game, and Star Maps, in which you'll be discovering new solar systems and charting stars.
Now, are these meant to be read as a group, or is this sort of you would buy the book and by yourself read it?
It sounds, at least for these initial ones, there's definitely a solo mode, and from what they said, I think only like 2-player you could do possibly, maybe 3. I think that's
perfect. It's perfectly fine. I was just curious whether they mentioned like, oh, well,
right,
because when we compared, I remember when you first told me I compared it to a Choose Your Own Adventure, and obviously that's really a single. I mean, I guess you could read it to your kids and be like, where do you want to go? But like, you know.
Take a vote. What do we do? Yeah, and I think it's kind of nice to have more solo stuff because there's so much for multiplayer.
Oh, yeah. And I will lie, as of recently, I think mostly just because of our own schedule, I've actually liked solo stuff because it allows me to go into the game and learn the mechanics for games more. And that way when it hits the table, I can be like, here's how it works.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of advantages to it. And I guess this is a thing that people like already. They didn't invent this, but it is something, not a huge genre that I'm really familiar with. So I'm curious how it will take off, because I really like the design of these covers, and that I like when things are part of a series, you know, and they all look nice on a shelf together, that kind of a thing.
Oh, it'd be cool. It'd be the next thing. It'd be sort of like a series of unfortunate events kind of thing that has like all those different novels, but they'd all be like that. So you're following one character's journey, but you're helping them.
That's a good idea. Yeah, stuff like that would be cool. You could make $1 million with an idea like that. Maybe, I don't know. So this is actually launching on Kickstarter later this year. So you can look forward to that at that point in time. And let us know if you've ever played a game like this. I know we also have the RPG that we talked about.
Papercraft?
It's like a papercraft thing, but I forget what it's called, like Cloud Dungeon. I think the Cloud Dungeon. We haven't tried it yet, but similar, I think, kind of concept. So I'd like to try that as well. And that was a Kickstarter, and this will be on Kickstarter. And there are some Kickstarters right now that are up. That
we're gonna Kickstarter Pickstarters?
Yeah, you got me. You always know what's going on. You're too smart for me.
It's almost as if I can know what the next slides are.
It's crazy. You have some kind of a window into the future. And the first game for Kickstarter this week is Constellations, which is, I guess, a tile placement game where everybody's working, not together, working separately to build a star system. And you're drawing cards, depending on which cards you have, you're trading them in to be able to place different kinds of constellations, which are on hexes. And depending on where you place them, you get different numbers of points and what they were worth, etc. And at the end of the game, you have this cool kind of star map. You count up your points. Whoever has the most points wins. And we always talk about educational kind of games that we think are cool. This actually comes with a booklet that has a whole bunch of information and history about different kinds of star patterns.
Yeah.
Mythology behind them.
Yeah, I saw that. I think it's cool. Also, because when it comes to constellations, what's really cool about them, I feel like it's not just deep in one area, area or another. It has like so much science to it because of the different stars and how they're moving, how they're discovered. That brings you to the history of how they're used for guiding what people saw in them. Then mythology, because the different constellations depending on who viewed them, whether it's Sagittarius or so on and so forth. So there's so much fun stuff to learn from them.
Did you ever have the glow in the dark
stars?
Oh,
of course I did. Everyone in the 90s did.
Yeah, they're pretty great.
But yeah, and it also reminded me of, I just got it. We haven't had a chance to play about Planetarium.
Right.
Which I really want to play, which sounds a lot of fun, so.
Stars are cool. This one goes for $22 on Kickstarter. And tell me about this one, Smiths of Winterforge.
This is pretty much a worker placement. You're all dwarves trying to show the royalty, build the best stuff. It looked really a lot of fun, really get the idea of just building and forging, hiring people who have specialties, getting the resources. And I thought it just looked like they put a lot of awesome work and just really cool. And just, I guess we've seen worker placement, but I don't usually think of just focusing on the forging process as much when.
Yeah, I can't think of many where you're just building weapons and stuff like that.
Yeah, so I liked it. It sounded fun to me.
Being dwarves kind of reminds me of that, like those games we talked about where you're the guild person and you're helping out the heroes or whatever. It's sort of like that end of it. And then there's of course what's the name of the drinking game?
Iron and Ale,
which is you're
it's
also
the
dwarves.
Celebrating part of the dwarven.
Yeah, no, that is pretty cool. That's for $37. Smiths of Winter forge if you want to be a dwarf and forge. I do. And then the last one I just thought sounded super interesting. It's called Sensational. It's an RPG. There's only a few days left on this one at the time that you'll be watching this. So if you like it, go ahead and get it right now. Time is limited. But as the tagline says, it's an RPG where empathy matters. So the gimmick of this game is you have a superpower, but sort of like the Hulk, you can only use it when you're in a certain emotional state. But unlike the Hulk, it might not just be anger, it could be fear, it could be joy, it could be sadness.
So it's the ring, the lantern rings.
Sort of.
I think they're connected with an emotion too.
Right, well I know, but I don't think he has to be fearful to use fear. I think it's just the power.
Yeah, I don't know. You know what? It probably depends on where we pull from, but
it just sounded like such a novel concept, and it's basically up to you as your group to. There's no real system in place where you're afraid or you're not. You just kind of have to decide. Oh, I'm scared now, so I can do this. You do have things you have a stability attribute, so how flexible your moods can be and stuff like that.
I just imagine if fear is your thing, it's you're just walking around. What's that in the cooler? It's a cooler full of spiders. I open it whenever I need to.
Yeah, it's like Popeye eating his spinach. You need that. So check that one out. At $30, we'll get you the PDF for Sensational, if there's still time. We're flying through all this stuff this week.
Oh yeah.
But first, we're going to do a couple of viewer comments / questions. Battlestar Galactica was a subject of discussion last week or 2 weeks ago about how they may or may not be discontinuing it. We still do not know. Dave Dog says, I managed to get the base game and all expansions in English, thank God. He appears to be from Spain. That's why he's specifying in English. Not happy what happened to Chaos in the Old World and its expansion with Games Workshop taking the license back from Fantasy Flight. It's too rare and expensive now. So this is kind of something, Games Workshop was a bit of a different situation, but we have seen this before. It says, strangely in Spain today, I saw 5 new boxes of Chaos in the Old World in Spanish. Has a different publisher over there, apparently, so maybe that's why. I don't know, but it is...
Right. I will say we have to understand that we are viewing this, at least for a lot of it, we are usually from more of an American standpoint.
Very much so.
And while usually a lot of the ideas might be globally because they just put the law everywhere, there are weird things like Asmodee might not be printing this in Europe or whatever the case may be.
Right. There's different territorial
I mean, this
rights.
one I'm probably guessing is the same everywhere because it's a big IP, so. But that'd be more for maybe other kind of.
But it is, yeah. I mean, these board games it's tough when they go out of print.
Yeah, especially you got to go find that expansion now.
Yeah, it's a sad thing. Sometimes that can be tricky. Rico Cordova has a question for us. He says, with the convention season starting, do you guys have any conventions you are planning to attend? My wife and I went to MeepleCon this last weekend in Las Vegas. We played a ton of games, met a lot of great people, and lost out on a lot of sleep. All while not realizing my NCAA bracket was going straight to hell. I don't know about any of that stuff. That's not what I know about. But games... well, we didn't go to MeepleCon. I mean, we're definitely going to Gen Con. It's hard for us because
I mean, because we have to.
We're busy.
There's not many of us.
There are very few of us, so it tends to be, really the biggest ones that we actually are able to get to.
And within distance, we're gonna, as soon as we know more, go to the PAX Unplugged.
Oh, that'd be great. The one in Philadelphia.
While this isn't a convention, we will have some cool videos coming up. I won't say more until now.
Well, we could. I think it's announced.
But yeah.
Well, last year we did a PhD's speed gaming event. We got to interview a bunch of publishers there, and that's happening again in April.
So we'll be having some cool videos for that. But I mean, we'll keep an ear out. We'll tell you guys if we are going to more. But those are really right now the ones we're really planning on definitely being.
Yeah, if you are in the New York, New Jersey area and you know any cool conventions in that area, let us know because that's where we live. So it'd be more likely to be cool to try to attend some of those. Stuff we'd love to be able to go to Origins and Gamma, which just happened. By the way, I said Gamma. Is it Gamma? I don't know. I've never heard anyone say it out loud.
I can't pronounce anything right. Why would you ask me?
But It's just tough for us to get to them. But if you have suggestions, still let us know, or if there's ones you're going to. I didn't even honestly know MeepleCon was a thing until recently. So, but having it in Las Vegas sounds like a pretty good idea.
You go to the wrong table, but you still play because it's poker.
Yeah, it's a win-win situation. I don't know any other. There was not a lot this week. I kind of even had to go back to last week, as I said, to find stuff. Got any burning board game topics that you want to discuss? Any?
Yeah, board game burning.
Yeah, I'm for it. I think it's a show of political feminism.
But
not.
I would know your opinion, just to expand a little bit. I know we talked a bit, but seeing now, what you said in the beginning, the D&D Beyond, do you think that this is actually going to change, especially because, we've played on VR, too. Do you think that this is going to become a big trend? Do you think we're going to see other RPGs become more of a digital element?
I hope so. Well, I think the big thing that the beta isn't right now, which I'm almost positive will be the final version, because they have pictures of it, is app form. Right now, it's just the website or mobile website. I think they really needed to be a full integrated app for it to be successful in that way. But I mean, it's the future, right? Like RPGs are so.
Do you want it to? Do you think
it
should stay pens on paper and books, or?
I mean, I love the books.
Do you think they can coincide together?
I think they can. I think that's kind of what this is, because I think you still do need a full rule book to really get into it. If you're going, unless you're just making stuff up, obviously. But yeah, I mean, it's nice to have a book, but stuff like character sheets. You can always use a pencil and paper if you want to, but I really think if everybody had even like a tablet and it was so easy, you could just click and press, you have to erase stuff, it really would be a lifesaver in terms of organization of your items and your spells, and not having to remember, did I use this spell, how many slots do I have left, how much money do I have?
No, and I mean, even though I'm starting to try to read, to do campaign and stuff and try to world build this area, like most of mine comes more from the character. You've done a lot more work on and in my mind, I'm like, that's what I would want it more for, to be able to be like, okay, I'm looking for something. What's something that is lives in the water, is like an aberration or something?
Yeah, really nice cataloging system. What would be great is even maps. If you could design your own map, and actually, if it was all digital and you could like click on places and know where people were going, that's probably. I mean, they do have stuff like that, but I've never seen anything really comprehensive or official, of course.
I'd love to see this also in partnered, because I don't think D&D might have one. I don't know off the top, but I'm thinking really of the Pathfinder Society. Like if Pathfinder then started following this, would they then like give them all their, I forget what they call their head people who sort of run the events and stuff, like tablets, and then so they can go around and actually show people off, like with the app and stuff.
I wouldn't be surprised. D&D has the Adventurers League, or whatever. Yeah, that's like their equivalent of that, I think.
And I think the other big thing would be, this is probably more of a small thing, but like, and probably more for Pathfinder, because I don't think it's pretty much been one continuous, as in like 3.5, 4, 5. But like they have a lot of those small books, and like they have a lot of like small adventure guides or like little stories, like, and just to be able to look up and be like, I can pull from this set instead of just trying to find an out of print.
Yeah, absolutely. I wonder if it would, like, if D&D got all converted, would they even release 6th edition, or would they just say this is D&D and now we've updated the app or something? I don't know. It's interesting. I mean, that's probably a long ways off that they're even thinking about a 6th edition, because 5th is still kind of pretty new.
Yeah, I think they'd be more likely not to make a 6th edition, but more 5.5. I have a feeling I would I think would be a good idea for them, at least. And judging by more of the advanced D&D players, they'd probably release a book that's more like all right, we've done D&D 5. We focused a lot more on the role playing. This one has more of like, now if you want to try to level up your ranger, instead of just, here are your skills, you can be like, when you hit level 3, you can either go follow this path or this path, and you choose like one spell each, something more choice-based. That's a bit complicated, but like more choices means more variety.
Yeah, I mean, it seems to make sense that you start with open thing that everybody can access, and then you add the layers for people who are now more familiar with it.
And like you don't need the advanced book until.
We should do some impromptu D&D sessions on our show.
Out of nowhere.
Yeah, not at all ripping off Harmontown. That's what we should do. But not today. Maybe another day. That'd be, I don't know. We should start playing more games to finish things up. If you want to play some games, we actually got a bunch of new stuff on our website this week. We can talk about that at rollforcrit.com, including the brand new Scythe expansion. We still don't have Scythe the base. We're trying to get it, but if you want the expansion, head to our site. Plus lots of other cool stuff, Gloom in Space. Other fun games.
So head to rollforcrit.com. We have this video as many others. Great place to learn stuff. As well as you can contact us. I mean, subscribe here, of course, but you can comment down below. Also on Twitter at rollforcrit, Instagram, Facebook. We're everywhere.
Yeah, we're everywhere.
And comment if you have anything we talked about in the show. Also, this wasn't really a news story, so I didn't want to bring it up, but I would love to see if people are talking about it. Is they released a new, one card, so it's not really too much to talk about for Magic Gathering. And it's an interesting ability, but I would love to hear how people feel about how the way card looks. So if you've seen that, I'd love to see.
What's the name of the card?
Yeah, I don't know because it wasn't in English. But
I'll put a picture of it.
If you look, I think the set's called Amontet. So you just put Amontet spoiler, you'll find it.
Okay. Or any other questions you have about board games or any kind of card games, let us know. That would be great. We would love it.
Yeah. Until then, I'm Will Keeler.
I'm Jonathan Estes, and you've been watching Roll for Crit, the podcast.
Schmergle, Durgle, Purgle, Mouth, South.
Jesus.